For those of you that in radio land, you can just get the dial set to Truth FM 96.1 and don't do that touch the dial. Yeah, so the SKTV. Yeah, so Steve, it's all your.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good day. We want to welcome you to SKTV, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's edition, open mic to the show. We have everything under consideration like we did yesterday. Um, we have a lot to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen. I will have a couple of friends, contributors, panelists, other talk show hosts joining in here momentarily as we kick off this program. We want to welcome all of you, our viewers and our listeners from around the world. This is SKTV. And if you're following us on the radio in Liberia, FM 96, is that 96.1?
Yes, more definitely 96.1 Truth FM.
Truth FM 96.1. Today is another edition. Today is Sunday, the 29th of May, 2022. The time here in Phoenix, Arizona is 11 a.m. The time on the East Coast should be 2:11 p.m. And the time on the West, I would say maybe Central Standard, that's Minnesota, that's Texas Central Standard Time is 1:11 p.m. So we have different times here in the U.S., but we want to welcome all of you. As always, we'll say on SKTV, the Liberian people are the most important people on earth. That's what we believe. But most importantly, we believe that the Liberian women are the most beautiful women on earth. Johnson, what do you say about that, my man? You want to put yourself in situation you can't handle?
No, more definitely. You know, our women are the most beautiful women in the world. And for matter of fact, Steve, today is Mother Day. So there are a lot of things happening in the churches here in Liberia.
Wow. So the Mother Day celebration is celebrated across the nation today, as you're saying.
Yes.
Different well,
exactly.
Wonderful. Happy Mother's Day to all of the beautiful women on earth, especially to the Liberian women in Liberia and across the world. We want to welcome you. Share the show. As we're about to get into different conversations here this afternoon, we expect the conversation to be very educative, stimulating, encouraging, thought-provoking, but we will bring you the facts. We'll bring you the facts, the truth, and we'll also bring you reality, what's happening both in Liberia and across the world. We want to thank each and every one of you. Let's share the show, ladies and gentlemen. Let's share the show today. Today, politics is not going to be easy. We're going to talk lots of politics, lots of politics. We're going to talk here today. Our panelists, friends, and other members will be joining us momentarily. Like I said, let's share the show, guys. Let's share the show. Happy Mother's Day. We want to thank our viewers, our listeners, our followers from Europe, Asia, the Americas, Liberia, and other parts of the globe. We say thank you, and thank you. Today the weather is very beautiful in Arizona, as always. Very nice weather. It reminds me of Liberia. The sun is up. Very nice place to be. My man, I will send you a couple of pictures. My man, the area, my man, you see the area, Jella, you somewhere in Kagata or you in Douala or somewhere back in Nima County or somewhere, my man.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah.
Wow, that's magnificent.
Okay. Can you imagine there is no snow here on the other side of the country? We don't do that snow thing. Yeah.
Wow, that's good. That's good to hear. Yes.
The weather
here is what?
Go ahead, please.
Yes, the rain here is 40, and we are already into the rainy season here in Liberia. So we are experiencing a lot of rain a few days. But howbeit, I think since yesterday, the sun showing face a little bit.
Also, it's been raining so much in the country, yeah.
Yes, for the past days, yes, I can say almost 3 to 4 days.
No wonder why I've been seeing on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people have been writing about situation that people can't handle.
Mm-hmm.
The cold too much and the place too cool. Oh, behold, that the rain been bringing the cold. Now I got the cold because I was confused.
Yeah, that's the rain, my bro. You know, whenever the rain is falling, sometimes when you go on
Oh.
Facebook, yeah, so you see all the social talks and so on.
Yeah, because I've been
Mm.
hearing, some men are trying to try to eat chicken. I don't know what's going on.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Knock
I
him.
see. Okay, okay,
But
all
anyway,
right.
that's good.
Now we know what's going on. Now I know
Mm.
what's exactly going on. Well, gentlemen, be careful in the town. Be careful. You don't
That's
want to put
it.
yourself in a situation you can't handle. Please be
Yes,
careful.
most definitely.
Yes, but ladies and gentlemen, we want to quickly remind you, Sybil Connor is not available this weekend. He's in Philadelphia. My man, yesterday they flogged all 1-0, my man. I don't understand again. They flogged all 1-0.
Yes, most definitely. Yesterday was that kind of day. Yesterday, that for some of all who are supporting Liverpool, I was like in fact supporting Liverpool because I hear from England and I'm a fan of Chelsea FC. So I decided to do that solidarity team. But I don't know what Liverpool, should I say, I don't know, disgracefully, or if I embarrass us in that kind of a situation, you know. But anyway, that's the game. The game is all I think three ways: win, lose, or draw. So that's it.
Yes, yesterday, something about the game that I did not understand was Liverpool did not play. I didn't even see Sadio Mane in the game.
Yes, that's another thing. I don't know why the coach maybe decide to do that, but again, maybe sometimes they see themselves or maybe that way. Sometimes there are some games. Sometimes they bring or maybe the other players that maybe that they want to play.
My man, yesterday, even though I supported Liverpool, originally, as you can see, I'm a Barcelona fan.
Exactly. I
Yeah,
don't to even
100%.
ask him. Mm,
My man, 100% Barcelona fan. I can't change that one. I'm 100%.
okay.
Yeah, I've been Barcelona fan since 2002. Since the
Okay.
Ronaldinho and Samuel Eto'o
Mm,
them days, we are the
yes. Uh,
original supporters of Barcelona. When I talk about them, Barcelona supporters that just came around Messi time, we're discussing real supporters. We who
mhm.
really, really, like we were saying that, bro, we pay the price for this thing.
Yes.
Our contribution is
Exactly.
there, and every other thing is there. But people
Yeah,
know
my
the
man, Deco and days, but I can still remember.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly the good old days. I'm not talking about Arsenal. I'm talking about Arsenal
Yeah.
fan.
I think you, yeah. Only Baba listening to the radio.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Arsenal fan, and every day they're hoping,
Okay.
they're hoping, they're hoping, they're hoping, get a team for
Yeah.
hope. Every day they're hoping to get a team for hope. Me
That's
and
another
Kiatama,
thing.
Abdullah Kiatama was set up were for Liverpool yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, were for Liverpool. Yeah, Abdullah, they control the first half. Just before we get into the politics here, they
Mm,
control the first half. I
mm,
think what really bothered the team yesterday was
mm.
the fact experience and maturity played on Madrid's side.
Yes.
Yeah, those two things,
Mm, mm,
they kind of gave Liverpool heart. Don't get me wrong,
mm,
Liverpool got
mm.
the speed,
No,
the enthusiasm, the zeal, but the
yes.
experience and the maturity made a huge difference yesterday. In the game,
Mm,
experience and maturity counts. It makes a
mm,
difference. So, I mean, we lost yesterday.
mm.
Congratulations to Real Madrid.
We lost.
No, we lost yesterday, my man. We got to admit when we lose. We lost yesterday. So that
Wow.
Donald Trump can say we're flogged bigly.
Yes.
They flogged us bigly.
Mm,
I know Katama couldn't sleep last night because when after all the people would have made, no, I didn't
mm.
bet any money. That's a good thing. I don't bet, so I didn't lose any money.
Yes. The only thing yesterday evening at our end here, there was something nearly something going to happen, but how be it by the grace of God. One of entertainment or in fact video club nearly got on fire. I don't know
Oh,
one. Yeah, I don't know that was mistake or I don't know that was technical fault or what. You see, people were running remember for the live last night from the video club. Running here and there. It was not easy.
wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so
So
so you said one of the video club almost got burned.
yeah, because the machine, I don't know how the operator managed or what, the machine, the heavy smokes are coming from the backside
Oh wow.
of the machine. Yeah, so everybody now, when as soon as man, yeah, say, hey, something happened, everybody can be running at this cutter,
Right,
So
right, right, right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So everybody was running for their life. That one thing I really experienced during the game on last night, and was not really good for the operator of the video club.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. We want to jump straight to other news here. We want to jump to other news. In other news, Eloya Samuel Twe, but we'll be examining it because we have the documents here. We'll be examining it in the next few days. We have the documents here. We have to go through them. It looked like Samuel Twe pulled up another stunt on the Liberian people again. After the 25 million map-up exercise, it looks like Samuel Twe has pulled up another stunt again. And this is very concerning because he tried it the first time with a 25 million map-up exercise. After the report came out, the government did nothing about the recommendations. So it seemed as though Samuel Twe has pulled up another stunt again. But we'll talk about that in details in the next few days here because we got to go through the documents. From what I'm seeing here, it looks very troubling. It looks as though this is the same situation with Bernie Samokai. It looks as though this is the same situation with Bernie Samokai. And we on SKTV are going to be having this discussion and going on live with it. In other news also, it looks as though the senators, the legislatures, specifically the senators, and we'll be discussing that situation too in the next few days here. It looks as though they have played the Liberians in the diaspora with this whole dual citizenship bill. We have to look into it. This dual citizenship bill, from what we are gathering, is discriminatory. When I use the word discriminatory, I'm saying to my Oman all the way in Spain. I'm talking to my papa then all the way in Grand Jide. I'm talking to my other papa then all the way in Grand Cape Mount County, in Bapolu. I'm talking to y'all. I want you to listen. Your children then what they get in the country yet. The people then the paper that they signed a few times for dual citizenship. I know you're not heard that word before. The paper what they signed a few times. They say if your children then leave from the country, from the white man country, they come back to Liberia, they can be minister, they can hold position, BB position in the government. They can do it. So the people then who on the ground, who been stealing from you, like the people then they want. So we're going to go into that, and we're going to also point out all of the senators that voted this bill. This is problematic. Let me say this. Once we've digested this, we'll be calling on EULA and other Liberian associations in the Americas. Y'all might go Europe to go seek fund or y'all will not raise anything for you. We'll make sure we protest against you. We'll make sure we create this nonsense has got to stop. We'll make sure we start to have the national conversation and international conversation. Fasten. Y'all will not get. Say y'all say y'all wicked. Say y'all say y'all bad. Say y'all won't be evil. We'll raise the conversation up. This is unacceptable. This is ridiculous. This is not the right thing to do. We did not bring ourselves into exile. No, we did not. We did not bring the war to Liberia. We did not. So y'all cannot go and make a bill that will give us hard time. It's like y'all want for us to settle for less. Y'all ain't more Liberian more than us. No, that's not true. You're more Liberian. If some of you were given the chance to travel, you would denounce your Liberian citizenship. You would never talk about Liberia again. But we are on this side. We talk about our country. We continue to advocate, point out the wrongs and other things. And y'all go sit down, y'all made some kind of bill. Y'all think you're doing us a favor? You really think so? We'll discuss this bill in the details, and we'll talk about those who have betrayed the Liberians in the diaspora. We'll discuss it. We need to get into it to discuss it. It's very important. Very, 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 very important. But in the meantime, let's share the show. Let's share the show. And there are a lot of things going on that, a lot of distractions are going on. A lot of things are happening. In the next few weeks is going to be very heated. Today, we started off talking about yesterday. We talked about Mr. Alexander Cummings and the report that came out. We'll brush over it once we get back from the break. We'll just brush over it really quick. And we'll get into the conversation of the opposition. I know people don't want us to talk about it. We'll get into the conversation of the opposition. We'll also get into the conversation of the move Nathaniel McGill and other people are making against Joel Taylor and what's brewing in the CDC. We'll talk about that. In other news, we'll get into it. But let's get to the musical break really, really quick and share the show, guys. Let's share the show. Let's invite someone and let's have this conversation today. We will no copyright to the songs or the song that we play here today. As we get into the conversation, we definitely want to get into the conversation. Because we're headed towards election, we're going to show you who all been in our politics as always. We will no copyright to this song.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am son of that dear boy. I'm glad with the great opportunity given me to introduce to you your president.
Babu want to become president. Mosquito want to become president. Poppy Dossel want to become president. Crazy man you see want to become president. Mr. Kede want to become president. Mr. Lala man want to become president. President you will see you. Mr. Roro want to become president. Diego. Now how the president business will be. We suffering for some more. Mr. Lala want to become president. President you see want to become president. Mr. Become president. It can't be one angry. Let me tell you something. When they want to become president with Lala, they will come and say, as the president of the Republic of Liberia, I thank you people for introducing me as the president. The power invested in me as the president of the Republic of Liberia. I want to make sure I will bring the rest press down. Yeah. I'm going to pull all the fear press down. I'm going to bring the gasoline press down. Yeah. Kalolo want to become president. Yeah, you know easy again. You want to tell me say president with charge money eat up become president? Cross take up become president? And not easy. Liberia will support you. When they be president to them, they will stand and say, I'm Mason. I will bring down Moldova and bear you new Moldova. I'm going to make sure I'm not going to see the government money. I'm going to make sure 7-7 get their back pay. I'm the president going to make sure that the AFL going to be paid in 2 weeks. I'm going to make sure the student going to get 12 buses. I'm going to make sure for the little children they say, I'm going to buy two plastic bags for them to poo-poo inside. Yeah. Babu, you see, want to become president. Mr. President want to become president. Mr. Dongo want to become president. Lala want to become president. Karen Ripper want to become president. You know, it's so free, Liberia. Listen to the speech. As the president of the Republic of Liberia, I'm going to make sure I'm going to electrify the city into 1 day time. As the president of the Republic, I'm going to dry the whole of the sea and pay you people estate daily. change. And things go bad. Republic of West Wind going to be a estate. Mr. President, become president. Mr. Lalame won't become president. Mr. Ruru want to become president. Mr. Dr. Job won't become president. Mr. Kenju May won't become president. Mr. Ripasa won't become president. Mosquito want to become president. The Crazy Caesar want to become president.
Okay, a lot of people want to become president. That is for a fact. That there was a lot of people that want to become president. They wanted to become president a few years ago. They still want to be president today. Some of them have been president, and yet they still want to be president. But let's get into the show really quick. Mr. Sia, how are you?
I'm very fine. Good to be here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for always honoring our invite. In just a minute for now, Jay Randy should be joining us as well. Let's get into this conversation here. Let's get into this conversation here today. I want to start this conversation with. I just want us to poke this conversation because eventually we'll get into it a little deeper here for another time. But what do you make of the move Nathaniel Maguire is making in Bon County? And this move is in isolation of the vice president, who's, I'll say, maybe the mother of Bon County, who delivered Bon County to the CDC. What do you make of this move? Some people say it's disrespectful, it's dishonoring. Some people say, what's going on? What do you say?
Steve, it's good to be here. And we're talking about the guy, Nathaniel Maguire. Maguire started this thing for some time now. Election coming, Steve, and the political actors are, trying everything, especially the CDC, to maintain power. Maguire, the last time I checked, he spent about 73 million Liberian dollars across a good number of the counties in Liberia in the name of scholarship for students. And it's obvious the goal has been or is to win, most students on the side of the CDC so that those students can be able to vote for the CDC in the upcoming election. That would benefit Joel Howard Taylor. I don't see Joel Howard Taylor going anywhere. Whatever you may have heard at this point, because Joel Howard Taylor is yet to see any reason to leave the CDC. If anything is to go to the contrary, that would mean that the CDC, is making a decision or to let us go. I don't see how that would be a good strategy, because if they should make a decision to not put her on the ticket as they did in 2017, that would be a huge takeaway from the CDC. The CDC, I know that is desperate to maintain power, will not make such a move. I think it would be a terrible move for them to make. Steve, I don't see it.
But Nathaniel Maguire seemed to have established himself. Report has it that he's also built a place in Bon County, or he's working on other projects in Bon County as well, trying to establish himself, and even claiming to the point where he's on record of claiming to, be quote unquote a Bon County citizen, without taking the vice president with him on these different investments or things that he has been doing in the county. What does that say to you? This is politics. This is more like undermining or setting the stage for something. We can't hear you. You're muted, Anthony.
Steve, except we have any reliable information as to whether Maguire is doing all he has been doing because he wants to say go as number 2 to President Weah, I would not think he's doing all this, so that he can become vice president to President Weah in an upcoming election. I don't see that, because Mangue as a person would not be able to bring more votes to the CDC because of the name Mangue. I don't see that as yet. One is true that he has been going from one county to another. Like I told you, Mangue has spent over $70 million giving scholarship to students from Grand Bassa County to Mangibi County to Nibad. So many counties Mangue have gone to. Mangue has gone to giving scholarships. Some of the scholarships, he said that the government scholarships, some is the President Weah scholarship, some in his own name. And Mangue at some point went as far as saying, well, he got friends who are contributing to this effort that he has been on. So, Steve, I am reading it as Mangue trying to be the chief strategy and the implementer of that strategy for the CDC re-election. And
yet without a vice president, in her territory, in her area.
But Steve, let us understand that, Joel Howard Taylor, she is popular in Bond County. Bear you in mind now, for the first time since the CDC came to power, the vice president budget has increased to $4 million. You understand that? So if they don't want to make use of her, I don't see how they increase her budget to $4 million. The reason in my calculation, the increase of budget, they will want to see her on the campaign trail. So the money that has been put into her budget, a good number of that amount, a good portion of that amount, to put it right, will be used for campaign activity. And who are going to be using it? Joel Howard Taylor going to be using it. Look, Steve, Joel Howard Taylor right now is in a much better place with the CDC compared to 2-3 years ago. The CDC realized that they can't let her go. And Joel Howard Taylor herself, has calculated that she can't go anywhere right now because the opposition is not together. So she can't make that huge, take that huge risk. Right now, she's enjoying. She's the darling of the government.
Well, I want to hold you on that statement. The opposition is not together, because this has been a narrative that has been perpetrated by some, whether in the media or so forth, that the opposition is not together. The word together in the sense is relative. What do you mean when you say the opposition is not together? Because we dive into that because we're just seeing that there is a new alliance being formed called DAL, D-A-L, Democratic Alliance of Liberia. We'll talk about it. We'll go into it in depth. But what do you mean? And on the other hand, we have the CPP still standing with the Liberty Party and the ANC, and they have said that they're going to recruit other parties. So what do you mean the opposition are not together when you say that?
Thank you. We all sometime back agree that in order for President Weah to become a one-term president, it will require the opposition community coming together, building a collaboration, more so consisting of the major parties to field a single candidate. And that would have been the silver bullet to dethroning President Weah and making him a one-term president. We got sufficient evidence of that with the CPP. Mind you now, Steve, the CPP was Unity Party, the Liberty Party, the ANC, and Benny Nayure, who should not have been there in the first place. I'm saying this to say that there are 3 major opposition political parties that happen to be the big ones: Unity Party, Liberty Party, and ANC. Now, minus those 3 political parties I just named, the rest of the parties are mushroom parties. They don't even exist. If they do, they just exist on paper, and they don't have membership, right? So if that is split as we know it to be right now, it weakens the entire opposition. And so the opposition is not together, because you know that Unity Party left the CPP, and the entire Liberty Party is now within the CPP. the CPP is half of Liberty Party and the ANC, and that is not strong enough to pull on the challenge that can bring President Weah down. And now you are hearing you want for us to talk about DAL, which is the Democratic Alliance of Liberia.
Yeah, we're getting to it. I beg you, don't go into it. We're getting to it because we spend a chunk of time on DAL today. We'll try to also dive into what they're doing and who's part of it, and why is it that they've recruited certain people or a certain person to be the face of it, and what a problem possibly could be with this DAL. But let's move fast forward, because it's important also for us to scrutinize this whole CDC-led government, especially Samuel Tuwai. Let's move to Samuel Tuwai. I'm not sure if the issue of the Roe Fund, which we've spent time again to get into, but I want us to poke at that a little bit here. Samuel Tuwai pulled off stunt when the CDC took over with the 25,000 map-up exercises, or exercises.
25 million.
25 million, I mean, in which directly and indirectly, the report indicts him, but nothing has been done to hold him accountable by the CDC-led government up until today. Yet they run to this same report to reference this report as of recent. I did hear him referencing the report on Spoon Talk when he was on Spoon Talk, which I found a little troubling. But then we're hearing about this Roe Fund situation where millions have gone missing also, unaccounted for. So are we watching the French people say a deja vu? Are we watching something that we've already seen before and it's coming back to replay itself? What do you say?
Steve, it's very similar.
Okay.
Very, very similar. The Roe funds, the way the Roe funds, have been used. And if you look at how the AFL money, was used, it's similar. So let's dive into that. Now, for the understanding of those listening, the AFL money, according to Samuka, he was giving instruction by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the president at the time, to use some of the AFL money to settle AFL soldiers' problem. But that money was actually set aside for the AFL retirement. And the money was only supposed to be used to settle their retirement. It was money taken away from the soldiers to be set aside so that when any of them retire, they will get a retirement package.
Right.
That was the fund, and that was the main reason, the sole reason. Let emphasize that, the only or sole reason for that fund. But according to Samuka, he was given an instruction by President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to use the fund for a purpose not intended. Now, that was why he got in trouble. Let us also be clear, according to court documents, Mr. Samuka did not only use the money on the AFL for reasons the money was not intended for. Some of the money, according to court record, were misapplied. He used some of the money personally, according to the court record. And now he alone, he and the other two officials who were indicted. So there are two things. They used the money on the AFL, and it was not for pension purposes. The money was intended only for pension purposes. But he said he got instruction from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to use the money to take care of AFL, who have returned, I believe, from Mali on peacekeeping mission and were having some issues. Now, in the process of doing that, court record shows that some of the money were misapplied by him and the other officials. So let's understand that. Now, it's similar to the Roe funds because the Roe fund was also set up placing a 0.25% surcharge on petroleum products. And the collection of that money was solely intended to repair roads, to build new roads, and toward maintain the roads. That was the sole purpose. And my understanding is that that was created by an act. That's why they call it the National Road Fund of Liberia. So it became law that this particular money that is being collected from Liberians for the sale of petroleum products in Liberia will only be used to build new roads, to repair roads, and to maintain roads, nothing else, nothing more. Similar situation to the money for the AFL. So Bernie Samuka got in trouble because he used the money for reasons he should not have used the money for, even though he said he was given instruction by the president. So it was said that he violated the procedures put into place for the management of the road funds. That was why he was found guilty. That is why he supposed to go to jail, but did not go to jail. And that is why he became legally impaired from taking his seat that he's won. Now, here is Samuel 12, basically saying the same thing, that he had gotten verbal authorization from the management team of the road funds. I heard him, he said he's a member of that team. The Minister of Public Works is a member of that management team. I think he mentioned 6 ministers. I think the Minister of Transport and few other ministers who are part of the management team for the road funds. They make decision on the management of the road funds. Not only that, he said the legislators have also given verbal approval that the road funds should be used. He also said that they use the funds because on extreme circumstances, I'm paraphrasing here, all right, they have the leverage, more so when they get the instruction or the authorization from the management team of the road fund and the legislature. So he is making the argument that, yes, it's true, we use the money for different reasons that it's not supposed to be used for, but we did it because, number one, the people authorized by the law to manage the fund gave us that right, that authorization to do so. Also, the legislature, according to him, has also given a verbal authorization. Now, the issue of verbal authorization is questionable. It's very questionable because this fund was created by law. So if you are to spend any money, first of all, there's going to be a request from you. Mr. Twer did not state as to whether they made a formal request. And whether that, he didn't even say that formal request was approved formally through a written approval by the management team of the road fund and also the legislature. He is only relying on the fact that as the management team, when government is pressed in some areas, they have the leverage and the discretion to take some of the money and use the money. In my opinion, it is very similar to what Brandon Samukai did, because he is saying they got authorization. Samukai is saying, I got authorization to use the money. Samukai authorization came from the chief executive. Yet he got in trouble today. He does not have a seat. He is saying his authorization, which is verbal, came from the management team, also came from the legislature. But the legislature are divided. Some of them say, no, we did not give you that authorization. So that is similar in nature.
Wow. So Samuel Twer could get in trouble at some point when serious-minded people take over.
And Steve, Samuel Twer should be in trouble, but he will not be in trouble. Samuel Twer is one of the individuals who runs the government. So being one of those who runs the government, Samuel Twe is now going to get in trouble. Because Samuel Twe, according to him, acted more so to make the government to meet its obligation of salary payment to civil servants, because the money was actually used for civil servants, according to him, because they wanted to pay salary and they didn't have any other money anywhere else other than this road funds that was just sitting right there. Now, there's a piece we want to bring here, Steve. Let me bring that quickly and then you'll come in. That piece is, it was because of the same road funds, Cabinet Janet is no longer an associate justice of the Supreme Court today.
Right.
Let me make that clear. Now, at some point, Cabinet Janet gave a legal opinion, from my understanding, halting the collection of this 0.25 cent collection on subcharge for gasoline, which is actually the collection the government has been collecting for road fund or to raise the road fund. The reason Cabinet Janet placed that halt on the collection was, now I think it's the Petroleum Products Association, those who are in the sale of petroleum products, they have some concerns, you understand? And so they have, make a legal move that went before Cabinet Janet. So in order for him to make a decision, he decided that, well, let's place a halt, you understand, to the collection and look into the matter. When all of the legal concerns being raised by this group is actually addressed, then we can make a decision to continue the collection of the 0.25 cent, for the road funds. That was Cabinet Janet decision. The CDC government got angry and said, what? Cabinet Janet is exerting, excessive power. How can he make a decision to stop the collection of 25% money that we really, really need to raise money for the construction of roads? Mind you now, the CDC, when it came to power, in no time, it borrowed this road thing from, I think, Joseph Boakai, who was thinking, roads. The CDC picked it up. So it made the CDC decided to make the construction of road as one of its priorities, right? And so they were trying to show that, look, when we say we want to build roads, we are serious. So nobody should stop the collection of the 25 cent, which is intended for the construction, for the maintenance and repairs of roads. Cabinet Janet, you do not have the right to make that decision. So that's why they went after Cabinet Janet. But the sad thing is that was not Cabinet Janet's own decision, because it was voted upon. Other members of the Supreme Court bench were part of the decision. Yet, they did not go after those individuals who also voted in stopping the collection, except for Cabinet Janet, because Cabinet Janet at the time was the justice in chambers. So the CDC went after him legally. I don't know if I can pull it that way, but that's what they did, and Cabinet Janet is no more. So this is the very CDC that is using this money to pay salaries when the money was not intended, or is not intended for the payment of salary. Now, someone said something that I need to add here quickly. The person said that the international community, those who are in Liberia and helping to buttress government efforts in the maintenance, the construction, and repairs of roads, said that, look, if the government of Liberia can put this 25% aside, 25 cents aside, we will match it. In other words, if the government of Liberia should raise $15 million from the road funds, we will give you $15 million.
Right.
That will make a total of $30 million. So that, because this is a very good idea, you have already come up with an idea or a way of raising money to build roads, we will add to that. So from what I know, if the government raised certain amount the international community now will come and add to it. But if you are taking this money in violation of the act creating this particular fund that it should be used solely for the construction of roads and you're using it for salary, the international community now have reason to not give you, to match it by 50%. I don't know about 50% or 100%, I forgot the exact percentage there, but they are supposed to be matching. I think it should be 100%. What the government will be collecting. I'm not firm on that. So the risk, the fact that you use the money to pay salaries is reason enough for the international community, because you use the money for something different. So now the international community can't match money that you're spending for salary. No, they can only match what you raise for the construction of roads. So that is another issue there, Steve.
And I agree with you. And this is not uncommon. This is not uncommon with a CDC-led government, whether we want to term it as misappropriation of funds or taking one money from this end to use it for something else. It's not uncommon for the CDC-led government. Remember when they took the money that were the monies that were kept for donors and so forth, and Samuel Tuah used the term borrowed initiative.
Yeah.
How do you borrow money from somebody? How do you take somebody money from them with all their consent? But the essence of borrowing is letting the person know that you're going to take the money and you're going to put it back, and that it becomes a mutual agreement. But once it's done without a consent, this is troubling. And these are some of the ways. And you know, I think we'll find time to talk about this road issue in Liberia, where in almost every government prioritized road, but we can't see the road. We can see the money invested in these roads, or they go and collect these different companies that they take the cuts from without any kind of proper bidding processes or whatever it is. They take these monies, funnel these monies through these companies, get the cuts from them, and nothing is done. So that every government that will come with just be roll. Like, come on now. I mean, Anthony, I don't know what you make of this thing. I think this is another way of stealing from the Liberian people. This is a way.
Sometime back, there was an investigative report that unearthed then that Nathaniel McGill had established a road construction company that was being awarded contract by the CDC government. At that time, when the story broke, Mambutu Yimpa, who is no more the former Minister of Public Works, was in charge of the Public Works Ministry at the time. Now, I still remember when I read that article, Mambutu Yimpa was not happy with Nathaniel McGill because previous contracts were given to McGill Road Construction Company.
Right.
And McGill Road Construction Company did not do a good job, did not complete the work. The money that was awarded, a company owned by Nathaniel McGill, did not get the job done. So Mambutu Yimpa was hesitant in giving this McGill-owned company another contract. So that brought a bad blood between Nathaniel McGill and Mambutu Yimpa.
Right.
And there was a serious argument between the two. And that was one of the reasons even Nathaniel McGill was being accused as having a hand in what led to the death of Mambutu Yimpa. Yes, so it was reported McGill has a road construction company. Now, I'm saying this to speak to what you just said, that some of the officials of government, they are either linked to road construction companies that they have share in, and they channel, money intended for the construction of roads to this company that they have shares in so that they can benefit. That is very, very possible. One case in point is the story that broke sometime back about Nathaniel McGill owning one of these construction companies that are not, worthy, of any contract in Liberia, given the fact that the company was just created just about the time they took power. It has no history of bidding any roles anywhere on this planet. But because of Manje's influence, that company was given a contract. I'm sure they twisted Mobutu's hands, and he too probably didn't know what to do because of Mangé being the guy in charge. Yeah, the man is a de facto president. But he was concerned that, he needed to stand up because the purpose of the money was not being achieved because the company was tested, was given a contract, and the company did not deliver. So he was not prepared to make that decision again. But Mangé said, "Look, you can't do that. Who are you to tell me that I can't get a contract or my company cannot get a contract?"
I'm going to link up with the
that was an
SKTV
issue there.
So,
Thank you. Yes, Johnson, we okay there? Wonderful.
16 years ago, a new center was birthed. Cash to
Johnson, are we taking the news?
He's muted.
Johnson, let me make sure. I'm not sure if we're taking the news now. Before we get into the next talking point. So I agree with you. These guys, they go in cycle with this mindset and what they've been doing, and once they have not been held accountable, they'll do it again. They keep trying it over and over and over and again, and this is unfortunate because these are the same things that they're going after people for. But Mr. C, I want us to move on a little bit to this new party that has been formed. Sometime back, we had Dr. Jeremiah Wapo on here, who said he was running for president, and he's going to be the change, and he wants to be the change. Out of a sudden, Dr. Jeremiah Wapo is one of the signatories to this. But here is to this new alliance. First of all, Mr. CA, let's get your take on this new alliance. What do you make of this new alliance, and what do you foresee before we get into the nitty-gritty?
The new alliance idea is simple. It is for JMB. Like I said, the organizing chairperson is Alari Togba. He is supporting Jose Yuman Boaka. I think politically speaking, it's a smart move. It is a smart move because you can't just take any move by the CDC that is a party to the upcoming election for granted. More so when the CDC controls the institutions that have the authority to legally stop anybody from contesting. The CDC has that advantage. So the Unity Party, based on the CPP as a clause that is being contested, may well be stopped when it is prayed for in a court of law. We heard from Musa Belete, and there's no reason to doubt that Alexander Benedict Cummings and the ANC, they are on board with this, that they will file a lawsuit against the Unity Party to not fee a candidate in the name of the Unity Party. And the same can be said about the All Liberian Party. I don't know why we sometimes waste our time on this club called party, right? So that can happen.
No, I don't discuss All Liberian Party.
Yes, it's a waste of time. That is not a party.
Yes, it's not a party.
That is a family club.
Yeah, but bunch of North makers just come together and no relevance. But let's focus on relevance.
So The Unity Party, supporters of Mr. Bwaka, knowing that the CDC can take advantage of what is a strong lawsuit, and according to some lawyers, has some constitutional backing, because I'm told that Article 25 is clear that the Constitution of Liberia is clear on protecting any contract reached by parties, and that there will be no law passed in Liberia to impair any contract reached by individuals or institutions. That goes to say that the Unity Party is a signatory to the CPP, even though there's noise right there. They say they didn't sign, but the document was filed. They got certificated, so that remains legal until otherwise, right? Mm-hmm. So if that legal ruling is granted as being prayed for by the ANC, from our understanding, and the Liberty Party, it will mean that the Unity Party will not have to feed a candidate in its own name. So that is why I say this is a smart move by supporters of Joseph Yaman Bwaka, and also on the part of Joseph Yaman Bwaka to say, oh, okay, you guys are putting something together to save my candidacy, or my right to run as a candidate in the upcoming election, then I'm going to do it, because Bwaka's greatest strength is just wait, relax, and it will come to you. So these are individuals who came up with the idea that, oh man, we know you have some numbers in your corner. We know you have name recognition in your corner. With you, there might be a little chance here compared to the others. So we can't take the risk of hoping that, you will run anyway and CDC cannot do anything. Let's put something together. And they are also recognized that one party can win this thing, Steve. That is a fact. If the CDC could not win it as a single party, if the Unity Party could not win it as a single party, that goes to say no party can win it right now single-handedly. So in their calculation, say, well, let's put a coalition together. Only coalition, stands a chance here. Now, I don't have the total number of, the name of the parties, but I heard, and which one of the insiders confirmed to me, about 10 to 12 parties. They are in conversation with about 10 to 12 parties. Of course, the Unity Party. Of course, the Liberty Party. Of course, the national, the NDC. All right, that is the party of Alari Toba and Dr. Duba Christian. And of course, Jeremiah Wapple's party, I just forgot the name of the party, and few other parties that they named to me, but I can't remember their name, because these parties, as you know, they are not known in Liberia. They are only tied to individuals. So I think, Steve, in all fairness, it's a good strategy. That is the best option for Mr. Bwaka to run, and to run as a coalition candidate should what being prayed for in the court intended to stop him from running on the Unity Party becomes a reality. Then Mr. Bwaka will have a chance to run.
Okay. Well, thank you. Let's welcome J. Randy. Mm-hmm. Randy, how are you?
Hey, Steve. Thank you so much. And guys, sorry, I have to take care of some parental responsibility here, and it kind of rolled into my time. So let me apologize. I keep apologizing on your show. So I think it's about time that you start to put in regulations such as fines. And, because when people start taking money from people pocket, they will be committed to coming on time. But thank you so much for the time. And let me say hi to Mr. Sear, and let me say hi to Kula, that guy from Liberia. Is he hearing me right now? Kula, K-U-L-A, Kula. And Steve, thank you for also welcoming me as well.
Thank you so much. You met us in a conversation with Volt. Let me say Volt with DAL.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've been following the conversation, but I wanted to for you to briefly summarize something you said. You had a brief show this morning. I think it's interesting what some of the things you said. I was on there for a couple of minutes, but then I had to leave.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go back a little bit, walk us back, because some people might not have listened to you.
Yeah.
You alluded to something that is very important. And some of these things, when we say them, it's not against anybody, but we have to follow these traits and behavior pattern because they speak volume. And we say in psychology that behavior does not change. It either gets worse or it subsides. So that means, in other words, if somebody starts to lie or they're a new liar, when you make them president, they will not stop lying. It will just create an opportunity for them to lie on a bigger stage or so forth. Similar thing we saw with President Donald Trump. We know Donald Trump was a liar before he became president. So when he became president, it didn't stop him from lying. He just had to lie to cover up some bad things that he did. So I've never heard that story that you talked about. Can you summarize that story and tell us why you accuse the vice president, the former vice president, of what you accuse him of today, before we get into this part of the conversation?
Well, I mean, I stand not to put any allege to this story because it was told by him, and he believed that the age he has is based on honesty, and he always like bring people to come and say things here. I won't come today and say Anthony, CA, or Steve, or maybe Kula, or anybody here to make a story of people. I live with my character, and this is something that he said, and I believe it was between the end of 2015 to 2017. He told a story when he was a middle-aged guy where he essentially went and got a billy goat in Lofa County, and the billy goat, was not that healthy, and he took the billy goat to a Fula businessman with the intent of selling the billy goat. And as he continued to tell the story to Mr. Costa, he said the Fula man saw the well-being of the goat. The goat wasn't that okay, and the man declined to do business with them. But he eventually went back home and decided to do what he believed were the best things to help him get the money he wanted, because he actually needed some money to buy something else. So when he and his brother went and put a bag of salt into a bucket of water, and the goat eventually drank the water, and the goat intestine expanded, and he took the billy goat back to this very Fula man, who in turn asked him whether it was the same goat, and he denied that. So essentially he misled the man, and he lied to the man, and the man sold the goat to him, and he admitted that to Costa. The dishonesty. You see, one thing I tend to see about Liberians, because our political interest into party, we don't look at the objectivity of the party. We tend to look at the individual and defend the individual. And to defend the individual, we bring in our personal ego, our personal emotion. But if we look at things from the content's view, we take away the emotion. People will use their emotion to defend a candidate, but they will also protect their emotion to not be open to tell the truth. And that is where I differ with many Liberians. So he essentially lied to the Fula man and sold the billy goat, and was, I would say he was encouraged and he was brave to come and tell the story to Mr. Costa. But up to now, I have been asking that question. Costa, in all dishonesty, hasn't been able to come out to say, look, this guy you're talking about, in person of Honorable Boyka, is an honest man. He won't say that. In fact, just recently, as recent as last week, he mentioned that, there's no hope for any politician that I see around here. And there's no guarantee. Why do you think he's putting those red tapes around? Because he knows the individual he supports, and he's not going to be honest with that. So he sold the billy. The billy goat was sold. He sold the billy goat. He got the money, and he's not apologetic about that. But yeah, it's the same guy, Mr. Boyka, who is in court telling people that someone, in person of Mr. Cummings, has done something bad, even though there is no empirical and trace of any infrared, because I'm not going to forensic now, but infrared evidence that show that there is thing on what Mr. Cummings has done. Yet, Mr. Cummings wants to live an exemplified life to the Liberian people and the incoming generation, that once you are accused of anything, or even if you are directly found guilty of found in the eye of anything, he is going through what he believes are steps that would take the country in the next direction. Because Moses, we are dealing with a large volume of population that is illiterate and economically conditioned. And Mr. Comey understand that these two indicators will drive anyone to believe what they want to believe. So using that same belief method is also using it for the good of our people.
Don't you just touch the doctor, get it set to Truth FM 96.1.
All right. So he believed that while it is true that other people use the two indicators for the wrong reason, he's trying to use that indicators as well for the right reason, and that is to go through the due process. Now, Honorable Boyka, as people call him, the state man, this man has a history of misleading the people and even lying about doing that too. For example, Eddie Johnson said he brought him next to him as vice president. And I think Mr. Anthony here, as fair as he wants to be, we understand and know that the vice president of the Republic of Liberia, since the day of President Turbo, has a responsibility of catering to a population of our people, and that is the disabled community. So if Mr. Boyka comes and tell you and all the Liberians that he will park, and he is a race car, but he will park, he essentially tell you that he had nothing to do as vice president, which is not true. Because the role of the vice president, from being bold, is not just to sit with the Senate, it is to help and assist the disabled community called Group of 77. He received money for that. I heard Mr. CSA and Joe Howard Taylor received $4 million. Boyka received more than that as well. Bronsky is on record of alluding to the same thing prior to his demise. So when Boyka said, I'm parked like a race car, he chose to say that to the Liberian people. But the fact is, there is a functional responsibility that he has to carry out. But again, that is another lie. And let me say this to Liberian. Lie doesn't mean that it should be measured against any one age or any one height. A lie is a lie. A lie destroys society. A lie destroys human being lives. A lie misleads an entire country. And if you think you are a young man that want to live a character life, then you should make sure that lies don't be part of what you do. If you want to be an elderly man in society, you should make sure that lies are things that you don't stand to support. I'm saying this to say, we all accept the allegation against Mr. Cummings, and Mr. Cummings wholeheartedly received the due process to go through. What about Mr. Boyka? Where does the honesty lies? How can the Liberian people rely on Mr. Boyka when he has bag of things in his closet that he hasn't been able to come and clarify? It all stemmed from that Bidego issue that he told. Remember, Moses, he told that story. It was not me that told that story.
Okay, well, so essentially what you're saying, former Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai came in the public and said he saw a Bidego to a Fula guy. The Bidego was now all first. He took the Bidego back, feed the Bidego, for the Bidego got, brought the same goat by and large to the Fula man and say, you know, this is another Bidego, and the Fula man bought it. So
That's
he
correct.
tricked the man.
That's
He
correct.
tricked the man.
That's correct.
And one of the things I've noticed and I've realized in our Liberian setting, and not all Liberians, let me be clear, not
Yeah.
all Liberians, but most of our Liberian setting, especially in the political arena, the level of dishonesty, they see that when they're dishonest, that means they're smart.
Yeah.
When they get you, they're smart. Imagine somebody, and this is sad. Even let's talk about the politics, just the everyday activities in Liberia most of the time. How can you send money to somebody to do something for you and put the transportation on that money, put the feeding on that money and other things on that money? Then the person come back and say they trick you in that same money that you send them and think that they're smart. They go and sit and laugh about it.
Yeah.
When they trick you, then they're smart. But let's get to. Thank you for providing clarity and context to that conversation.
And before I close on that, my goal, because other people may be thinking about what is Brandy goal? You know, my goal here is to picture what Mr. Boyka has done. You know, we all got beautiful lawn. All right. You walk by a yard, you see how beautiful the lawn is, right? There are other plant that are mixed with the lawn called, bad weed. You have to weed those things out so that you can have a beautiful landscape. Honorable Boyka can become a beautiful landscape, but he got some weed among his DNA or within his DNA that we need to remove, because if that doesn't happen, it will spread over to the other part of the lawn, and it could have an impact. And that impact is the future of our country. And that's what Cummins is doing differently.
Okay. So let's come to this. Let's come to the issue of the new alliance that is formed. I know Ansoni just spoke about it. We'll get to Ansoni, but let's hear from you on that. What is your take on this new alliance, and what do you think might be their end? Or
well, I would discuss it from the character and intent. The character of any behavior is like a bubble or molecule. You have to study the molecule stability to determine whether you're going to get a better product. The character of people align with each other is nothing that should be strange to any Liberians, but it's all about personal interest. One, you want to tell me the whole CPP thing they put together here. It is not the government of Liberia that came and split them apart. It is not any likeness that came from some type of thunderstorm that split them apart. Why are they split? It's because they who left Cummins in there are greedy set of people, self-centered. And we have a history of the same thing. If you go back to the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf then day, when they went against Taylor, they had a group. The group didn't work to gain anything. During the Samuel Kayando era, there was some other group that refused to join Ellen Johnson Sirleaf then coalition at that time. And even during the Warren Fashion days, if you recall, Taylor was in Ghana when the collaboration of all the Warren Fashion took over Banga, and they couldn't determine who should be in charge, and Taylor came and took them back. So today, Mr. Boyka, who I see as the oldest person who could be or should be the teacher, is now becoming the villain in everything, all because he's very self-centered. He doesn't want to give chance to other people. And the reason here is Mr. Boyka in his entire political life has never contested in any election. You know, when you're good at something, I heard you guys talking about the Liverpool versus the Real Madrid. All you guys play the games. It's just that they were tired yesterday. And that would be my part of the script, but that's another discussion for another day, because I know that will start to trigger everybody's feelings now. But I believe my boys were very tired. And I wouldn't bet on it yesterday, but they are not my team, though. And when someone like Honorable Boyka start to behave in a very unusual way, knowing that he has a history of joining things that don't help at all. I mean, you and I have learned over the years, the 5 years and so, Mr. Boyka won. We were in the position with Joe. We are 2-2. He got bamboozled and went and joined Mr. Cummins and Mr. Uri along with the Libronsky and went for voter irregularity, right? All right. Now, let's see that as some type of good faith. He was not selfish in that, and I will give him the benefit of the doubt, because he wanted to prove to the Liberian people that we have to challenge some result to improve future performance. Now, he left that coalition. He came back again and said, okay, the best way. Yes.
Rennie, we'll also have to take into consideration in that scenario, it was directly benefiting him.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. And it's good to add that, not as an addendum, but just to fill in the gap. And it's true, because he wanted benefit for that too. Because the strategy was to derail the process and frustrate sedition. But at that time, we're already in our full gear, so there was nothing that was going to stop at that time. But it served a purpose and that is why I'm focused on the purpose. Even though it benefited him in that perspective, I was looking at things from that process, that we have a democratic system now, that we, with any doubt in our mind, can go through our judicial system to get things work. So I will give him that, not based on his benefit, but I will give him the truth that he supported a cause, because he could have been very selfish to say, you know what, man, I'm already in the game, man. I ain't get time for you guys. And you guys are a bunch of losers. I'm moving forward. Some people will do that, and they will get good excuse that you will believe. So, for example, we got a campaign, young man, we're not here for this thing. But he did that, and I'll give it to him on that. Now, he come with experience, as people claim. The CPP thing here. The CPP thing is a precursor to determine whether Bawka can adequately handle internal or domestic or international conflict. This thing was between all of them. Was not there. We all saw it. People would say it was invisible hand, but we didn't get to see the invisible hand. The physical player, we know all of them. And people were asking questions. But Mr. Bawka, in no time, in no shape and form, brought these people together to find a common ground, because their goal is to, or let's say was to unseat George Weah. But he played into a strategy that will benefit him. And that speaks to Mr. Bawka's inability to not want to compete. Because remember, and I want you to take this as a reference, Mr. Bawka had never participated in any election where he won. The first time he did, he got flogged. So he suffered from that phobia. He's afraid. So when Mr. Cummings came out and talked about the VPS, it became a worrisome thing for him. He was afraid. He's like, geez, if I go in this thing and lose, and it will be bad for me. And so I will find any means necessary to escape from this, because it became a nightmare for him. So what did he do? He followed whatever we gave him the escape route to leave. So coming down to this particular DAL, let's look at the character of those. And one character I want to take out of there is Alari Tokpa. Man, please. Alari Tokpa now should be sitting down talking to his grandchildren about their failure of not really understanding why they went behind Dr. H. Burman formula, Dr. Sawyer. He should be able to tell, because these guys, when we were still in elementary school, they were like who can I say today? They were like the guy the guy from this EFL in Liberia. I just forgot his name. And a young politician right now. Yeah, all right. They were that kind of type, very engaged, because they have been filled with the new idea of preaching politics for common good. And in that process, he didn't take a middle position. He squarely went against Samuel Kanyado because he felt that Amos Sawyer, Dr. Formula, and every one of these guys were in the right interest. And in the end, all hell break loose. And in the end, he became a total loser. There's nothing he has right now. So what he's trying to do now? He wants to be now the teacher. But again, I told you, it's about character and interest. The reason they form in the party, and I will probably agree with Anthony C.A., is because they want to find a way out. So in case they could come out and favor Mr. Cummings on their own claw and say the party cannot run, guess what? They already got a reserve. They're going to use that party to carry Joseph Bawka. So I'll give that to Mr. C.A. for making that smart analysis. That is all it is about. But there will be no agenda. He will not separate himself from Ellen. He will not even provide a political party statement or purpose, because Joseph Bawka don't have none.
Okay. Because Joseph Bawka doesn't have none. So I want to ask this question, because Ansoni here says something that I want to ask this question about this whole legal issue. And this goes to Ansoni, and then you can chip in.
All right.
The question is, if Joseph Yuma Bawka has this ticket, and maybe he cannot run as a Unity Party partisan or as a Unity Party leader, does that automatically make Unity Party partisans to gravitate towards this new alliance? Now, mind you, Unity Party partisans are committed to Unity Party, not necessarily the political leader. So keep that in context. What does it say? Does it say that this is going to be a split? Because if the Unity Party brand and NIM cannot go to this new alliance and they're going to go quote-unquote neutral, or they're going to go by themselves, how does that impact Joseph Yuma Bawka's chances of even luring Unity Party partisans to him? Again, Unity Party partisans or partisans always like to go towards the party, not necessary, or follow the party. What do you say, Mr. C, before J. Rennie can chip in there?
Steve, there is the likelihood of some interesting political dynamics with the question that you ask. This thing is going to be juicy. Look, if Bouaka is not to run on a Unity Party ticket, it would be because a court ruling is saying because the Unity Party left the CPP, Unity Party cannot field a candidate. Mark that. Now, is it possible that some member of the Unity Party who are now all in with Bouaka can decide that we are staying in the CPP? Because, mind you, what is not done legally is not done at all. Legally speaking, the Unity Party is yet to fulfill all the legal requirements or steps or procedures laid down in the CPP framework document that will certify an exit. That is yet to be certified. Is it possible some Unity Party partisans who are now all in with Bouaka can say, well, as far as we know, the Unity Party is still within the CPP? If that comes to play, there are more reasons to believe that the National Election Commission will recognize that Unity Party as a member of the CPP, because the National Election Commission position is clear. As it stands, the Unity Party has not yet left the CPP legally in the eyes of the election governing body, the NEC, the NEC. All right? Now, people always bring in the Mana Sali factor. We all know with no doubt that Mana Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is not supporting Bouaka, will not support Mr. Bouaka. Folks in Bouaka camp have said it over and over. The matter is clear. Can the Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf say, look, based on what we know, Unity Party has not left the CPP legally? Can she use, or will she use her influence to say the Unity Party is alive and well in the CPP? And can they pretend to be putting forth a candidate and come up with a name that will unite the Unity Party partisans that believe in Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, that they are sticking to the CPP? Is that possible? Can Ellen Johnson Sirleaf say, hey, Gafwan, this is a perfect opportunity, even if you will not win, which is very much unlikely, but it will bring your name out in the political atmosphere. Since you are a young man with ambition for tomorrow, this is an opportunity to start selling yourself. Is that possible? We are hearing about Dr. Otoga, what's the last name?
Gateway McIntosh.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Steve. So here is Dr. McIntosh, who is being speculated that somehow the madam wants her to become a candidate for the Unity Party. The so-called departure of the Unity Party, which is not done legally, has left the Unity Party legally in the CPP for Dr. McIntosh to take advantage. See, are you following? And mind you, the Unity Party that wins, I continue to say that, is the Unity Party of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. The Unity Party of Joseph Bouaka is the loser. Now, I am not naive. Unity Party, voters, the Liberian voters, they don't necessarily vote on party lines. I'm not saying they don't, but not necessarily. If the name George Weah is not on the CDC ticket, you have a different ball game. if the name Bouaka is not on the ticket in the Unity Party, of course you will have a different ballgame. There are some people who are committed to the party. There are some people who are committed to the individual or the political leader. What I'm saying, Steve, is that if Bouaka is to run on the Democratic Alliance, all voters have already made up their mind that they want Bouaka. Many of them have voted for President Weah, hoping that he will have become a better person or president than Joseph Yeman Bouaka. So, in other words, they abandoned Bouaka for Weah. And here is Weah. In some of them, determination is not up to the task. So now, if they are to make the decision again, given that they've tried President Weah, and in their conclusion, he is now who they thought he would have become, they will stick to Bouaka. There are some people who are now more about the party. Yeah, they call the party thing, but they are more about the individuals. Because at the end of the day, a good number of them are smart enough to know that if any party is to win, they must win with a candidate. That candidate has the name recognition. That candidate must be known in the counties. That candidate must have, the ability to bring more numbers. And whatever you think of Bouaka, I'm not saying this might be an automatic win for him. As evident by the past election, he netted 400,000 votes. That was a significant chunk of vote that he got. Why would Bouaka not be able to get that again? Even if he can't get that, if he gets 300, which would be 100,000 millions, that is a significant amount of votes that can probably get him to the second round. And when he gets to the second round, it will be an entire different ball game. But that scenario I explained to you, the fact that the Unity Party is yet to leave the CPP legally. If Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and other Unity Party decide that we are staying with the CPP, they will divide the votes between them and Joseph Bouaka, and that will be bad for Bouaka. More so in the second round, it will be bad for him.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from Randy. Randy, what is your take on this? Because this is interesting.
It is essentially and importantly interesting because it just goes to show that Joseph Bouaka is not a reliable person. I mean, think about Obama saying because we went into a coalition with other party, I'm leaving the Democratic Party. I mean, you don't have the value, the I care value about the party. And think about the story in the Bible where the woman says, "This child is mine," and the other lady said, "It is mine," and the king said, "Split it, baby." And the woman who owned the child said, "No, give that child to that lady." Why? Because she believed in him or life. You see, Joseph Bouaka's story will continue to be revealed based on his behavior. He's a man that don't have any reliable party. As long as something is in his interest, he will go for it. So those who will be living in this scenario question you're asking, and the what if the case turned out that the co-holds that the CPP document should hold, it is the Unity Party of Edward B.N. Cassidy that will remain hanging. And if Mr. Cassidy, who is a good son of Lofa County, that established that party for a reason, he was alive today, he would rather stay with the CPP because of why he established the party. But Joseph Bouaka got no feelings. He doesn't care for the party. All he wants is what he can get out of it. Remember, Joseph Bouaka, as I told many of you guys, used to be a National Democratic Party of Liberia member. He was almost shortlisted as the VP for Samuel Kanyando. It was Une Kekula Kutu who prevented him from taking that position. And it was when they got Mr. and the late Harry from Bamumba. So someone who doesn't care about the party will move on. You see the reason why Cummings is still over there? Because Cummings loves the ANC party. And that's why he bearing that cross of torment and going through the due process. Musa Bedete believed in the Unity Party. It's a party that was established by some good Liberians, irrespective of a character at this moment. He's still in there. On the other hand, Nomdi Kanga, she doesn't believe in Charles Walker Bronsky philosophy. There was no time that Charles Walker Bronsky, if he was still alive, he would have left that party. So you see the trend and the pattern of these guys. Europe, he doesn't care. Europe being an all-out man, he came into our country with an all-out man that they respected the rules. So when we talk about standards, he had never been in any structural standard in the past. So as for Europe, I'm not going to even mention him. But for Burkhardt to go and say, I'm about to form a coalition, we should challenge Burkhardt's mental state of making constructive and sustainable decisions. If Burkhardt really wanted to be president and he had that confidence to be president, one, he would have told the rest of the team, look, guys, I have what it takes for me to be president. I'm not going to join any coalition now. I will be taking on George Weah in the second round. When that time comes, you'll come back and let's have the conversation. But because he's weak-minded, he's incompetent, every place that he worked, he has not done anything. So he has no leverage over any situation he finds himself in. And that is why he will fall for anything. Now, people who've been doubting me, that always say J. Randy, you always say Burkhardt for him for team. Mine, this new DAL is your case study now, not mine. Watch how you're going to play. If you haven't taken anything from me, watch. He's slipping into that one now. He's not looking at the risks associated with that. Because Unity Party got people who believe in the core value of that party. And no matter what happens, they will remain with that party. And it will just go to show that Burkhardt was a stranger in the party. He only came for himself and not for the people that really believe in a party. That is why he's running away. He could have solved that problem. The mere fact that Burkhardt sat in ELBC studio and looked in the face of Support George and said, I cannot be vice president anymore, that further challenged Mr. Burkhardt's understanding and mental state of mind. Because a coalition with the language in the document that states that we will have a primary and whoever is elected will have the chance to pick their vice president. And it further showed too that he reads perhaps, but he doesn't read with understanding as well. Because if anybody tell you that, and you have the mind, as the question he presented to Support George, that I cannot be anything but for president, if he really understood what he told Support George, getting into the CPP, if that language ever came out during the discussion, he would have set the record straight to say, you know what, guys, there's nothing else I want to be. Comey did say that, and Comey was right because it tells you that when Comey is coming in for something, he really means what he's coming in for. And everybody will know today whether the Joshua Comey on that as being selfish or just being a guy who wants to be president. People will stand behind Comey because he was a man of his words. And going into the coalition or collaboration, Comey knew nothing else that he wants to be. And as you can see today now, he might likely end out to be the head of the CPP-TK, of which Mr. Burkhardt did not really understand. So it all shows, gentlemen, Burkhardt is not reliable and he cannot be trusted. Burkhardt doesn't believe in any process that requires participation through election. Burkhardt is not going to tell you the truth because he has never told you the truth and he's not going to tell you the truth. And lastly, those who are going to follow Burkhardt, I'm a little bit worried, and that worry is about the future because the teacher always teach the student to be the successor. Those who will remain with the Unity Party, they will be the true representation of Liberia. Those who going after Joseph Burkhardt, they are the weed that need to be taken out the political field because they are not in the interest. It was not Alexander Comey that caused that problem. It was Ure, Burkhardt, and Nomdi Kanga who decided, without even having an internal conflict resolution, to come up with what they're coming up with now. The question here now is, what role is you going to play? What role is Nomdi Kanga going to play? And for the other men who passing around here, who one day say Burkhardt is a dead man walking, is he going to agree with that TK? Because there are a lot of people in our coalition that he doesn't like, but it is yet to remain, to be determined. We shall see. So I will hold myself there.
Okay,
Let me chime in there.
Let me throw this question in while you're chiming, so you can answer this question. Does it mean I'm more likely so we could have two unity parties?
All right, Steve. Nothing is impossible in politics. I listened to Jay Rennie. Jay Rennie said Mr. Bwaka to have said that he cannot be vice president. He has problem with that. Cummings has also been emphatic, like Bwaka has, that the only job that he can take to make a meaningful impact in Liberia is president. In my opinion, that is similar to what Bwaka has said. Now, Cummings has also, his surrogates have also about who goes into a competition and say, I want to be number 2. That is true. No one should say that. You can't be going into the competition, you go into the final and say, well, I'm going to be number 2. You go for number 1. So it is very similar to what Bwaka has said. Even Bwaka saying that he does not want to go as vice president again, it makes a logical sense because he has served as vice president before. I'm not suggesting that one cannot serve as a particular position for 2-3 terms. It happened before. But it's similar to what Cummings has said. I want to be number 1. I want to be president. So I don't see how Jay Rennie is having problem with what Bwaka said and is not having problem with what Cummings said when they are very similar. I will not have problem, and I don't have problem with what the both men have said because they are going into a competition and they are saying, I will win it. I want to be number 1. I have no problem with that. There are many people who think for Cummings saying that means he's desperate. For Bwaka saying that means he's desperate. No, it's not desperation. You go into a competition, you go to win. You want to take first place. Now, the other thing here is that the Unity Party, Steve, you're talking about chaos. Not the Unity Party, the DAL, the Democratic Alliance. That is something that we cannot root out. First of all, it is important for me to agree with Jay Rennie in part and disagree with him in part on why he said about the CPP. Because on the CPP thing, he put the entire blame on Joseph Bwaka. I disagree with him very strongly. The CPP fell apart collectively. In other words, the leaders, all of them contributed to it. Mr. Cummings contributed to it very hugely, just as Bwaka and Nyomble and the rest of them. Their failure to not have understood that when you are going into a competition, someone will be number 1 and someone will be number 2. And that's the only way it will work. And for them to have played that they needed to be number 1 at all costs. And when they came to realize that that was threatened and the whole thing fell apart is one piece of it. But a greater portion on Mr. Cummings' side is that, look, and that is why the Cummings people don't like me, and I speak my mind anyway. Mr. Cummings is from the corporate world. For the past 6 years that I have applied for a loan, I have signed using something they call doc sign. That is document sign. They send a document to you, you initial every page and you sign. The process, Mr. Cummings with his experience in corporate world should have done a much better job that will prevent any of these useless allegations that came against him. And I intentionally calling them useless allegations. Reason, because that allegation undermined the entire goal of the CPP to stick together to feed a single candidate. For the sake of argument, if we can agree that the documents was altered, if you look at the language, that's what the ANC folks have said, that somehow indicted them in some way, that, well, the alteration did not benefit Mr. Cummings in any shape and form, and I agree. There was nothing that favored him if you look at the language of the CPP document. So that goes to say that if the way the document was written Though not perfect, they could have done a much better job, but that was a goal for them to fill a single ticket. Why they didn't stick to that? But we can all agree on that debate. It continues. So let me now settle on this DAL. There is a possibility that somebody can throw a monkey wrench in this thing, as Steve will always say. That person, that institution might be the CDC. That person might be Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Money can destroy political arrangements. Individuals can be used by the opposing side. This is Mr. Bouaka, who had the best opportunity in his lifetime to becoming president, and he didn't have the eyes to see it. Mr. Bouaka, if he has stayed in this thing, could possibly become the CPP candidate. And then he would have become president. Mr. Bouaka was standing at the number one beneficiary of this CPP thing. But because he's not a leader, he's not a visionary, he does not have eyes to see, he failed. He failure to have stay in the CPP, to work a deal or follow the process to the end, got us where we are.
Okay.
But finally, Steve, so this DAL is not a guarantee.
Okay.
Mr. Bouaka is just sitting there. These folks are putting this thing together. I'm not sure he's following attentively. I'm not sure he's looking at the players. These players that are putting this thing together, they got interest. Some of these people are folks that the government can use money to buy. They have connections in other places. Money can be used and they can pull away from Mr. Bouaka. So this thing can go so bad for Mr. Bouaka. It may also go so well for him. We don't know. There is not a guarantee. I would think this is a huge risk. Because if these parties to this organizing what you call coalition decide that Mr. Bouaka does not have the money, Steve, let us not forget that at the end of the day, they will come to what? Money. Mr. Bouaka, only political capital here is that everybody knows him to be former vice president, and he won good number of votes, and that's all Mr. Bouaka has. He does not have the leadership as he displayed in the CPP. He could not mend the fences. He ran away. So when another chaos comes, the fact that he does not have conflict resolution skills, he can't stand tension. And this political arrangement, they are about tension, your ability to negotiate, to mend fences, and resolve conflict. This man says he has a track record resolving conflict, but we have not seen one. So if this thing falls apart, Mr. Bouaka is in much more further trouble than he might be not thinking here. That's how I see it.
Okay. Randy.
Hey, Steve, I'd like to speak to what Mr. Sia has said in regards to Bouaka admission to Mr. Support George. I think there is a fine line between the right to know and the right to understand. And I will have to make that very clear here. The right to understand is when Mr. Cummings first started, because I have a history of tracking all the political leaders, because when I get on them, I would like to show and provide evidence. Throughout Mr. Cummings' ALP single role without the coalition or collaboration, he has always stood to say, I would like to be nothing else but president. But when Mr. Cummings joined the coalition or the collaboration, it was never mentioned as such as the way he said it. He said, if the possibility exists, we will go in there and whoever wins, I hope I win, and the other will follow me. Or if it turned out not to be the way that I expected, I would turn out. Now, Mr. Bouaka was giving a case scenario question as part of the CPP, where the guy said, what will happen if one morning you turn out to be a vice president The reason he structured the question that way is because he knows that within that collaborating political party, there will be a primary where each party will go out there and select who might be the head. And according to the document, the head has the right to pick within or somewhere else. With that context, it was where Bawker said no to that. There had never been any time Osa or Bawker without the coalition have I ever heard him saying, I cannot be nothing else but vice president. So there is a fine line between understanding and there's a fine line between the right to know about what you say. So just to clear that out, all right? Mr. Cummings also spoke about the voter perception survey to determine who is more popular. Even though popularity shares some some differences with being liked. Bawker also went against that. It's going to prove itself that if he joined the DAL, there will be no such thing as competition in there. And that way he feels comfortable. So I just want to set that other information. Now,
Rennie, I'm not interrupting you.
Hold on. No, please. I must be protected here. I'll give you all the time to talk.
I'm sorry, Rennie to
our emotions were talking, but I managed to control my emotion. All right, you did touch my skin. All I did was just react physically, but not talkingly, if that's a word to use. All right, so they find that the question you asked as to whether there will be a two-unity party, Joseph Bawker cannot take unity party and separate it into two. That would be impossible because the unity party itself is already hooked within the framework document. And the language say, if you leave, you cannot represent the party. If he does something contrary to that, that also speaks to how his whole political career is not about building bridges. It's about breaking bridges, and only he alone should be part of that process. So I will you and go to the next question. I don't know what the brother has to say, but I'm not going to go back on what he has to say.
Yeah, Rennie, I didn't intend to take your time. I just wanted to say, Mr. Cummings has been on record also that he will follow the process, and whatever the outcome of the CP primary will be, he will support that process. He has said that repeatedly. The only person who has not been on record repeatedly on that is Mr. Bawker. Mr. Bawker at no time had expressed that if for any reason he will not win the CP primary, he will stay there. That was something he was never prepared to say. Mr. Cummings, to his credit, has said that repeatedly, even though he maintained that he wanted. But he also said, if I don't win it, I will support the process. I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, in the next few minutes here, we will be letting the folks from Liberia to leave us. We'll be letting them to go. But I wanted to expand on the last segment here, since we're still talking about this whole DAL or whatever it is. Interestingly, the chairman for DAL is Alari Topa. And for what they're making it seem as though it's not set to coronate Joseph Boakai. But here is what's confusing though. So then in this whole thing that we're talking about, then what becomes of the chairman for each of the political parties, because they're supposed to play a role in there. So what will become their role?
Steve, thank you. And there will be my last contribution to the discussion. It is about time for me to go hand on my little cartoon. Yeah.
I I got to that one out, but people forgive me.
Yeah. To your question, the general agreement, you see my alarm telling me, man, it's time for you to go. The general agreement that is bringing these parties together is that they are coming to support Joseph Boakai. Now, they say they learned from the CPP mistake. When they put the CPP together, it was intended that there will be competition, even though there was the assumption that, well, Cummings will now fight Boakai, he would take the second place. There were assumptions there. But the CPP framework document did not explain that assumption. They talk about primaries, they talk about consensus, right? So I just want to make that clear. So this time, they are saying anybody joining the coalition must agree first that Joseph Boakai is to be the candidate. If you don't agree to that, you cannot be part of it. So with that, you might think that they won't have issue to producing the candidate. So that is a unanimous agreement. That is even the prerequisite for any party to join that particular coalition, according to my inside sources. Now, then they are still finding way how do we decide who becomes the number 2 on the ticket or the vice presidential candidate. Whether it is Boakai to decide, or whether the other parties will vote, or whether they will contest, or whether there will be a primary among themselves as to who should go number 2. That is why they are not settled on yet. But as to who's going to be the candidate is Boakai. Your right to join the particular DAL is to first of all give away your right that you are now going to be the candidate and Boakai is going to be the candidate. That is it. So let's hope it helps them. And that is why Mr. Boakai is smiling right now. So Mr. Boakai now has gotten what he ever wanted, to be a candidate of a coalition. I mean, what could have been a much easier and better way to have gotten it. But again, Alaric talked about other leaders there putting these things together. They don't have a history of winning anything. A good number of them are disconnected from the Liberian people. Despite maintain their impressive record of political advocacy in Liberia. Dubayan has that, whatever you think of him. Alaric Toba has that. I know Jay Renning earlier was like, oh, these people, they were troublemakers and all that. Those people fought for multi-party democracy. The history is clear. We need to recognize that, even if we think that, what they did was nothing. That is the truth. Alaric Toba went to jail. Dr. Dubayan went to jail. These people that are saying something, what they did then is not different from what we're doing right now. But unfortunately for them, they were placed into jail. They got humiliated. They were beaten. No one is beating us for doing exactly the same thing. And in fact, during that time, the tools we have now, they don't have them. Jay Rennie is all the way, I believe, in Maryland, and he's looking at my face. I'm looking at him. We are talking now. Everybody across the globe can listen to us. During that time, they have to write, and sometimes those things will not be published. They have to work in the middle of the night to get. So they were in a different situation. They were facing tyrants. I'm sure we don't have a tyrant in our hands. Joey is a weakling. These guys are weakling. They are just using fear tactics. Even though they're hurting people, they hurt Emmanuel Service and all that. But that is nothing compared to what those people have to face. To dismiss their contribution at the time, it would not be a good thing to do. That is James Rani telling me I should dismiss whatever he's doing right now. Even though he's been flip-flopping, he goes to Georgia, he comes back, and now he's on the other side. That is all he's been doing. I can't dismiss whatever contribution he's made, even though he's been flip-flopping, he's been back and forth. He's like arguing with himself. But I will still recognize that he too, like all of us, want to see a good Liberia. I remember your story about that little bathroom you left there in Liberia, and you try to even rebuild it. That story is powerful. It tells us that for all these years, our country has not made any progress socially, and that is sad. Thank you, Jay Ronnie. I know I threw a shot there.
No, I'll respond to you before. I mean, after you leave, you don't have to be here, but I just want to bring this to your attention. So I don't know whether it's your boss or not, but your guy had contacted me. What's his name?
Mr. John?
Yes. He called me on my way to work, and he said he called me twice, and he wanted me to be on the panel. So just so you know.
We will appreciate to have you.
All right. So I just want to let you guys know on that. But I appreciate that. I'm still contemplating on that. He offered me the opportunity. So thank you. And I look forward to working with you guys. But I'll respond to you when you leave. I got my grant. So I wish you a good day today. Enjoy yourself at work. And it's good talking to you again, as always.
Just Randy, thanks for your time. Steve, it was good being with you. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you. Randy, we got about 5-10 minutes here.
Yes.
Let's make use of that time.
Yes, sir.
What do you say? The question that was asked
in regards to the I forgot you got to remember to speak.
In regards to the chairmanship, currently Alari Tokpa is the chairman of this new alliance.
Yeah.
How would that play out, considering these other political parties have chairmen? Do they get rid of him at some point and bring these political parties in? Would that create a rift, or does he remain the chairman, even though he's the founding chairman? How does the rotation of that happen, as we saw in the CPP? What do you say? Is this?
Well, I mean, I haven't read the full detail of the collaboration yet, and Attorney Mr. Sule just spoke on speculations. And until I can see a full documentation, I don't think speculation will be something helpful to me. But what I can say is, from a historical behavior of our political party, Alari Tokpa is not going for anybody else for Joseph Boakai. And the purpose of doing that is for economic benefit. This is a guy who is very poor. This is a guy who followed the wrong people, never had no goal for himself. And he's now lingering around and just hooking up to something. Until I see a documentation that actually represents transparency leadership, where there will be competition. Because any organization, especially a political organization, that doesn't include other people to participate in the process, you are going to be bringing in a dictatorship government. So from the speculation that Mr. Attorney is talking about, Mr. C just mentioned that there is a binding agreement at the door, like my man Alanda King would say, at the door, that before you step your first foot on the inside road, you must commit and accept that Joseph Boakai is not going to have anything to do with competition. That is a disaster that everyone needs to hear. Everybody needs to be concerned about, that this old man is doing everything in his wee way to be chairman of whatever it takes. That kind of reminds me of dictatorship. Now, as far as the chairmanship goes, Alari Tokpa is only facilitating the process because he wants to be part of the process. Whether Mo Ali will have a voice to in there, I don't know. But Alari Tokpa will also be coming with a part of people too, because they all act like a union group. Alari Tokpa coming now in a coalition, everybody going to become a different corner now. We're going to be coming to join, and then it's going to be a chaos in there. So it is to be determined, but I can guarantee you that it's going to be very ugly in there, and the ugliness will be pointing towards Joseph Boakai. Now, he spoke about Alari Tokpa. Let me say this to you. Today, the NAACP, today, the American Civil Liberties Union, these organizations stand from one person idea and brought people together. They protest, they presented issue that should have created equality back in the days. And what happened to this organization? They had upgraded themselves to the ACLU, the NAACP, so they will have Black Lives Matter. We're even trying to have Blue Lives, because everybody got objective. Now, the Progressive, the PAL, the Movement of Justice in Africa, with all the things that are happening in Liberia, do we have any organization that we can look up to as the grandfather organization when you guys came to Liberia? That is where Mr. Attorney C doesn't understand. These guys, when it comes to Liberia organization, they only coming to get their own money and their own interest. If they really wanted to sustain things, because think about it, the political crisis in our country continue to live on, right, Moses? But the check and balance that's supposed to ensure that political correctness, political instability are fact checked. ACA is supposed to be coming from those who advocated to say, oh, we can't, as a progressive alliance in Liberia, we can't, as Movement of Justice in Africa, to make sure that we create political correctness. So where does Mr. Alari Topa stand today? It's just go to speak that these guys, why Jay Randy don't believe in these guys, because they were very greedy. And Anthony is right when he said the issue still consists today. You saw Miata Formula crying, dream, or that so your a barrier. It kind of reminds me of the people who just fail. And to see this guy still running around here, why is he running around here? Today, Jesse Jackson will be proud that he had the NAACP, and others will be proud because of what they fought for. And that why when some of them pass away, those who are going to the great beyond, people proud them in what they left behind as a legacy. But look at all these guys. They save everything they fought for. So anybody who come to power without a sustainable goal, without a sustainable objective, I'm not going to have confidence. And Joseph Boakai continue to manifest that as well. And you will see all these things. Now he spoke about flip-flop. I love the way they're using flip-flop because the way Jay Randy measure flip-flop, it's not the way like when people see it. If Mr. Weah does the right thing, I will commend him. If Mr. Weah go out there and say something bad, I will what? Criticize him. In the Liberian man's mind, that is flip-flopping. But what type of flip-flopping is that? Is it positive? Is it good? Oh, if it happened to you, because if I look at the flip-flopping map, if I say the right thing about one political party, I got more people watching me. But then if I flip and start saying the negative thing about a political party, then the number drop. We in engineering call that inconsistency. Anything that inconsistent, you don't want to be, especially when you're in the air, the plane, you stop, it go, you start worrying that it's inconsistent. You want the plane to be very direct. So when people talk about flip-flopping, I already got my reference. If Mr. Weah doesn't do the right thing, I will come back here. And one thing Mr. Anthony should always do, because he and I went down the road, always go back to Randy history and say, Randy said, if Weah doesn't do the right thing, he will come back. And when he make his audience to understand that, then it will determine why Randy keep oscillating. And he goes down. That recently the president built a new hospital in Bapolu County, Bapolu County. I came out and said, oh, thank you, Mr. President. That recently the president, Minister of State Profilo, put a structure down at the airfield with no standard. I criticize it. I do it to Cummings, I do it to Boakai, I do it to George Weah. Why? Because the Jay Randy you see here, he doesn't school low to anybody. Most of you got your degree, you working to another one. I got mine. I believe in those things. I will not trade my degree for personal interest. He's going to push a cartoon. I would rather push my cartoon at Walmart too and defend my career. But Liberia must move forward. Yes, it must move forward. But I appreciate him for being very, very honest to what I said about Mr. Cummings. But he was just a little bit not too transparent when I said that Boakai is the weed, that we need to weed out the grass. Maybe, I don't know. No one time, nowadays when people talking, they got their phone next to them, they can say, take down with the papel. Maybe, I don't know. But that's what I have to say in regards to that. So people who follow me religiously, they will know that Jay Randy is a guy who said the truth. And before you leave, let me add this. One of the reasons I came on late, because I followed the show. So I called Mr. McGill. I said, Mr. McGill, what's going on? Is Joel Howard Taylor not on your campaign trail? He said, no, Randy. He said, within the coalition, they got a coalition and they got a Congress for Democratic Change. Why it is true that they are bound together, they still have people that are coming from different angles of the party. So the guy you guys saw over there is a CDC guy. However, he's part of the structure. And I said to him, if the guy does become the head, what will happen? He said, everybody. And he said, Randy, anybody that listening to you while you're talking, even if they join the CDC and in Maryland County, they want me to go there to support them, I will go there and support them. That's what he said. So he said, there's no conflict between Joel Howard Taylor and everyone. And he said, why people are not asking if I'm in Maryland? Why people are not asking when I go to Cape Town? Why people are not asking, but when I'm in Bond County? And I said, that is why I always call to ask you guys this question. I wanted to follow on the Samuel Tour issue in regards to why that money was redirected. He said you have to talk to Tour, and I appreciate him for that because he don't want to be the master of all things. I did try reaching out to Tour, but Tour wasn't able to pick up, and I will still follow up with him. I remember he had told me past time how much it take every month to generate in order to pay. But again, I will ask the question to all Liberians. Just how we all pay taxes in America here. Those that own property back home, are we committed to paying taxes for the government to generate tax money to pay? That's the question that I want to leave with everyone, including myself. All right, including myself. So I don't know if you have any other thing for me, but that's who I am.
Well, that will be it for today. We have exhausted our 2 hours, Brandy.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, I'm not sure about your availability, but we'll talk behind closed doors.
Okay.
We'd like to dive into this whole roof fund thing a little more.
Yes.
I will send you the documentations so that you
I'm
can.
all yours tomorrow. I'm all yours tomorrow. It's a holiday. Okay. I ain't got no damn work to do. I'm bored in the house here.
Okay.
Very, very bored. Yes, I'm very, very bored. I need to be here. I want to go out there and be cutting grass. I'm in the jungle, so to speak. I'm in the jungle. So,
yeah, so
but I'll be glad.
Tomorrow you and I will talk about the road funds.
Yes, sir.
We need to definitely talk about the road fund. I will send you the information.
If you have any other topic on the list, bring it on too.
Yes,
because election time is coming. Election time is coming. It's time now to fire things up. But I will say this in my own personal journey. Joseph Boga need to come out and tell the people about that biblical story, and I will not stop in my own personal journey to get him to confess. If I would get Gene, what do you call it, Gene Goode Flomo, if I would give him $500 to go and ask that question, I'm willing to do that because I know that is something that I'm trying to get out of Joseph Boga. So any journalist who's willing to ask that man that question, I will give you 2 installments. $500, you got to go and ask Joseph Boga that question because he has to confess that question. And that's my personal journey in getting that stuff done. So this is an announcement I'm making here, unfortunately, with all your consent or maybe approval. So that's what we are. But yeah, tomorrow I can come and, and join you guys tomorrow.
Yes, let's coordinate behind closed doors. And we'll clear it out. And we'll always, being part of us whenever we reach out to you to be our guest. Or to be our contributor. You always show up. I want to say thanks to our viewers and our listeners. Thank you so much. Let's have a good rest of the weekend. Stay out of trouble. And let's call it a night.
You don't even know my story. You don't even know your story. Oh, yeah. You know, on the I'll be a local. So moral, you post a new car on Facebook. Brother, so la la, you working better. Bluffing and acting jealous, say you photo. My advice for you, in my way, I got to confess. Confession, you gotta confess. You must have the impression. Enjoyment, got your blessing. Enjoyment, no more stressing. Enjoyment, got your blessing.